I am a firm believer that recipes must be shared. And I know that not everybody agrees with this. Through sharing recipes, we allow family traditions to continue. And food, through smell and taste, triggers sweet memories of the past. I'm going to be making some cinnamon bread today, and for that I am using bread flour, some sugar that I have in the canister, some vegetable oil, salt, some active dry yeast, cinnamon, brown sugar, and some butter. I'm using plant butter, but you can use margarine or real butter if you'd like. I got this recipe from a sweet lady named Marcia a couple of years ago, and she just recently passed away. So Marcia, this video is for you. And I want to note that I am cutting this recipe in half, and the full recipe will be in the description box. So I am adding 4 cups of warm water to my mixer, 1 tablespoon or 2 of the small packages of active dry yeast, and a half a cup of sugar. And now I'm just mixing that ever so slightly and then turning it off and letting it set for about 10 minutes. Now that the yeast is all frothy and foamy, I'm going to add in the other ingredients. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of salt, a half a cup of vegetable oil, and 10 cups of bread flour. However, I only added 9 in at first, but then I ended up using the last cup. You can use all-purpose flour if that's all you have. But I feel like the bread flour really added a lot to this recipe in making the texture tender and soft and airy. I added half of the flour and then mixed it just a little bit and then added the rest. The dough has pulled away from the sides of the bowl, but is still somewhat sticky. So now I'm setting the mixer on the second speed, and I will knead the dough in the mixer for 5 minutes. I oil a large bowl with vegetable oil, and then I also rub it onto my hands as I'm getting the sticky dough out of the bowl. This was quite hard to get out of the bowl, and I don't think I've ever made bread dough as sticky as I did on this one, but it really turned out to be a nice dough after it rose. So fight the urge to add more flour to it. I think it really makes a difference in the texture after it's baked. I covered it with plastic wrap and let it sit in a warm place for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Have your brown sugar, cinnamon, and butter ready, and prepare the pans by putting a little bit of oil in them and rubbing it around. You might want to use parchment paper if your bread dough usually sticks to your pans. I had a little bit of trouble getting them out. Cut in half, this recipe makes 4 loaves of bread, so you'll need 4 loaf pans. And if you're thinking to yourself, what in the world am I going to do with 4 loaves of bread? I guarantee you'll have no trouble getting rid of these. I took a little bit of vegetable oil and put it on a clean counter and rubbed it around. If you've ever made cinnamon rolls before, this recipe is really a lot like that. It will remind you of making cinnamon rolls. So I punch down the dough and divide the dough into 4 equal parts. I was wondering if I'd done something wrong because at first these portions of dough didn't look like enough to make a loaf of bread to me, but they worked out just fine. It was really nice dough to work with too. So you flatten out the portion of dough. I decided to use a rolling pin, but I don't think that you'd need to if you didn't have one or didn't want to. But here I am just rolling it out, and I rolled it out quite thin. Like I said before, I'd never made cinnamon bread before, so I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. I go ahead and take a big knob of butter. I'm not sure how much that was, between a tablespoon and 2 tablespoons probably, and spread that all over the bread dough. Then I sprinkle pretty generously with cinnamon over the butter. Then I took a heaping spoonful, large spoonful of brown sugar and put that on the bread dough and spread it with my fingers evenly over the dough. After she tasted the finished cinnamon bread, my daughter said that I actually could have put more cinnamon on the bread dough. Then I just rolled it up tightly like you would for cinnamon rolls. I pinched the seams closed really tightly. And because it was my first time doing it, I made it way too long for the pan. So I folded over the ends and pinched those tightly too. But now I know not to roll it out so wide. This first loaf didn't turn out as pretty, and it's actually the one that I cut in the end of the video. Put it in a greased pan with some plastic wrap over it to allow to rise for another hour or hour and a half. I'm just going to show you the process one more time, and this is the last loaf that I did. And so I was a little more confident. I knew a little bit more of what I needed to do with it. It's bugging me that I didn't cover that one little corner with cinnamon or brown sugar. This is after about an hour and a half. So I preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and the recipe says to bake for 30 minutes, but these baked for 25. I checked them at 25 minutes and they were perfectly golden brown, so I took them out. So here you have Marcia's recipe for cinnamon bread. Be sure to write down your family's favorite recipes or share them with your friends and family. This bread was so good that I couldn't believe that I hadn't made it sooner than I did. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.